horror fan, best friends, and ghoulish knights, and welcome to the 9th episode of Murders with Mertens. This is a podcast about horror, comedy horror, the supernatural, sci-fi horror, body horror, the horror-adjacent thrillers, the psychologically terrifying, scary films in general. Each episode, I intend to sit down with a guest and discuss one of their favorite scary films so we can gush about everything that makes it just so damned cool. Viewers new and old, thank you for tuning in to this fledgling podcast. You can provide some much needed support for this little endeavor by subscribing to the channel, liking the video, dropping a comment below to keep the conversation going, and sharing an episode with someone you know who loves that particular film. It's all greatly appreciated. Finally, we're recording this on Mother's Day, so shout out to all the mothers out there and all those, mother is only half a word. You know who you are. So let's not waste any more time in introducing our guest for this episode, Aaron Cini. Aaron, how the hell are you?
I'm doing great, man. I'm excited to be on your show. I don't get into a ton of horror, but when I do, I tend to love it. So I've been trying to watch the movies that you've been recording about just to get me into more horror movies. So yeah, love it.
Yeah. Well, we'll let this be a gateway drug for you.
Right.
Because it becomes an obsession for a lot of people, to be fair. But yeah, Aaron, who are you?
I am Aaron Cini. I am the co-host of two different podcasts. I have the Speaking of Stadia podcast where we talk all things Stadia, the news going on, what's going on with cloud gaming in general. And then I also have a comedy podcast called Give Me 20 with the one and only Mel Felker. That is an awesome 20-minute short form podcast where we just talk crazy stories. We might try to work out some stuff for stand-up, things like that. So it's a lot of fun.
Cool. Very cool. Yeah, we just started talking a little bit more online recently, and I thought you'd be a fun guest for this. And luckily, you have a favorite film that's a hell of a lot of fun. Tonight's movie, or today's movie rather, because I think it's about 2:00 right now, is 2017's comedy horror film Happy Death Day, written by Scott Lobdell and directed by Christopher Landon, son of the late great Michael Landon, and starring Jessica Roth. And let's be super real here. This film would be so meh without her. She absolutely rules this entire thing.
Yes.
Perfect.
If you swap her out with anybody else, I don't think it's as good of a movie.
No, not at all. Not at all. This would probably feel very generic slasher at that point.
Yes.
So, Aaron, what's your history with this film? Anything special?
It's weird. It was just I was living in California when this came out, and I remember just having an afternoon to myself, and I was like, that looks fun enough. I'll go check it out. And really didn't know too much about it. I had seen the trailer, I think, so I kind of knew the premise, and just walked away mind blown at how good it was in terms of its premise and this, for all intents and purposes, this could have been an absolutely average film. And I left absolutely in love with it. I was like, this was amazing. How great of a concept did they turn this into? And like you said, Jessica Roth just completely steals the show, and you are so in love with her character by the end of this. So yeah, and then I obviously watched the sequel, which was fine. It was good enough. Jessica Roth was good in it, so you got more of that. But no, this is one of those movies that I've constantly come back to as like a comfort film, you're not sure what to put on, but you want to laugh, and this is great. It's so good.
Yeah, it absolutely leaves you with a smile on your face. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I don't remember any particular significance with the first time that I saw it. Like you, I'd seen the trailer, thought, oh, that looks like fun, whatever. But my first viewing must have been impactful enough because I know I bought a Blu-ray of it, shortly thereafter. And yeah, like you, it's kind of a good comfort film. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Like we've talked about already, if anybody else had been in this would have been such a paint by numbers slasher film, whatever. But
Sure.
yeah, it's fun, unique stuff. And yeah, the sequel, maybe not as good, but I do like that they really took it much more in a sci-fi direction. And
Right. And I liked that that's how they kind of flipped the formula. So it wasn't just another she's stuck in a loop, but everybody kind of getting to experience this and what is actually happening. So it was a fun enough explanation. I don't remember a ton about it. I think I only watched it the one time.
Same.
And this could just be a standalone forever and it would be okay.
Yep. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The second one is a lot of fun. Sure, does it really add too much to it? I don't know, but
Yeah,
they've talked forever about doing a third one, and
right.
I know that Christopher Landon has said that, yeah, he's actively pursuing it and everything, but I'm pretty sure that Blumhouse was not exactly the happiest with how the sequel performed. So, I mean, we'll see.
Yeah.
But if it
And I
happens, it
think that's the only
happens.
reason we got a sequel was because they were so ecstatic of how the first one performed. They were just like,
Yeah,
oh, wow, people loved this. Let's give them more. And that's just not always the answer. Sometimes we can just have a really good film and end it where it ends it and move
not
on.
not everything has to be a 10 film franchise.
Yep.
Absolutely, I'm totally down with that. Um, so why don't we kind of jump in here and get to what we like so much about this film? Starting with the opening logos. I mean, absolutely uh, know what is happening here because we get three separate tries of the Universal Pictures logo coming up, fizzing out, and starting over again.
Yep. It's a great intro to it. And honestly, they do such a good job. Like, I love the world building at the beginning of this movie. You get to see how terrible Tree really is. Like, she is not a good person. She is a jerk all the way through. And you like don't really feel bad for her by the time she meets her first fate. You're just like, oh,
Yeah. It takes quite a while for you to really get won over by her in any meaningful way.
yes.
She's a horrible person, and that's very, very clear from the get go. Wakes up with, "Am I in a dorm room?" Just the sound of disgust in her voice, and
Yeah.
we're introduced to Carter, whose room it actually is. The young man that took her home because she was drunk as fuck and
Right.
was concerned. Was nice enough not to take advantage of her. Thank God for that. And
Right.
yeah, very, very early though, we are drawing attention to so many little details,
Yeah.
and maybe not necessarily picking it up in your first viewing, but it becomes very clear how much they are pointing out the mundane and making sure that you understand probably should be paying attention.
Right. I love that we make sure we see the sprinklers. We make sure we have the guy staring her down, the saving the
Hmm.
earth lady, the car alarm. Like they do a really good job of making sure that there's things in the world that they're going to be able to come call back to. Um,
Yeah, the
and how
obnoxious
she interacts with
roommate.
those pieces throughout the film and how she evolves as a person and interacting with those pieces, I thought was fantastic. Sometimes she uses it as proof, right? Sometimes we get to see it as character growth as she finally signs the girl's petition. She gets the pillow for the frat boy who falls asleep on the lawn. Like they ended up using it as such a really good plot device to
Hmm.
show where she's at in the story, and I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah, and this little walk of shame, we get to this point shortly after passing by the frat pledges. She makes her way to this little covered walkway, and it's where we're introduced probably to the first red herring character. I can't even remember the character's name.
Him?
But yeah, Tim, the jilted stalkerish guy that I guess she went
Yes.
out on like one date with, and he's like, "Oh, you haven't returned any of my texts."
Right.
Um,
And she has her snarky little, you took me to a Subway on our first date, and trust me, you're not packing a foot long.
right,
I was just like,
right.
wow, she is cold.
Yes, yes. So she blows him off and then makes her way home. And after she gets inside the sorority house, greeted by the lovely, bitchy sorority sister Danielle.
There are
And
so many terrible characters in this movie, but
oh
they
yeah,
add so much to it. And we get to kind of get vengeance on all of them along the way, which is really fun. But Danielle is definitely the worst out of all of them. She is such a nightmare, and I love the times that we kind of get to see her get put in her place.
hmm
Um, yeah,
yeah, that's a lot of fun. And then we go from one bitchy sorority girl to another because we get her awful roommate Lori, uh,
right,
who reminds her of the fun that she had the evening before. Uh,
right.
and then, oh shit, late to class, worst birthday ever, but
Right.
also, she's not great and everything, but we also very much understand that, okay, Laurie's a little put upon because she has to room with Tree, um,
Right.
who's, again, awful person. And, Laurie likes the Lumineers, so, she's not that awful.
Right.
Because we get that song over and over again throughout this
Yeah.
film. But okay, so she gets to class, and okay, it's very late, of course, but it's
Right.
very, very obvious that she has some kind of connection with this professor because of the glances exchanged and everything.
Yeah.
And
And then minutes later we get confirmation of that. Like they're in the office and
mhm.
yeah. Gregory feels so scummy
Oh
all
yeah,
the time. Like you just get that vibe right away.
yeah,
But again, we're also solidifying how terrible Tree is. They really go out of their way to be like, this main
yeah,
character is not good.
yeah.
Like,
She's just about
she
breaking up
has,
a marmarriage here with her
yes, she
professor.
has very few redeeming qualities.
She's got her house meeting uh, in some kind of outdoor
The
seating
quad.
quad. Thank you.
All
Um,
colleges are always called the quad.
sure. And God, there's
They have
again much detail that we have here. Um, but what is it? The chocolate milk explosion because of running
yep.
into Carter again, and just all that nonsense. The shaming of her housemate Becky because of the chocolate milk and all the stuff on her food
Poor
tray there.
Becky.
Yeah, she
They're
gets
just mean to
shit
her the
on.
whole movie.
Yeah, they really are. Oh, in so many ways too, but we'll get
Yes.
to that later. Um, so yes, things are not going well for Tree, and we're not even 10 minutes into this film yet.
Right.
It's we are still under 10 minutes in, and all these little details will be very, very important. So she obviously gets cleaned up, and I think this is where she stops by the hospital to meet Gregory,
Oh,
because
yeah,
it's
you're right.
after the lunchtime meeting. But she gets another call from her dad, which she ignores, and she's got the awful birthday ringtone that's so obnoxious, but will come back again and again.
One of the few points that I get a little like confused by from a writer's standpoint of why choose that song because she clearly doesn't want people to know it's her birthday. Her roommate constantly says, "Did you think I wouldn't figure it out?" I'm like, how can you not figure it out? Her ringtone literally says it's your birthday in the most obnoxious way possible.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
One of my few small nitpicks of this film of just like that doesn't make any sense.
Nope, nope. But I totally get that is definitely a nit to pick for sure.
Yes.
So she runs into her roommate again, about to get on the elevator, and her roommate is pissed that she's there at the hospital because, well, of what is about to happen, the meeting
Yeah.
with Gregory, because she knows that she's,
Right.
fucking her professor, and she's not pleased about it. But Tree just blows her off and goes up, meets with him, and then we get that whole scene with them making out and the wife showing up and all that.
And the
Um,
perfect kick of the rolling chair to stick up
yeah,
underneath the door.
very,
Incredible.
very, very lucky in
Yeah.
how that lines up. Um, but let's see here. And then, and still, we're still just creeping up on 10 minutes at this point. Um, but that whole scene happens. Tree leaves, and then we're back at the sorority house, and her sister Danielle is an absolute bitch again, stealing her top, telling her she better not be late to the party, all that. And they have this very, very noticeable power outage.
Yep.
Um, that occurs at a very specific time, and then it comes back on, and then it's time for Tree to walk off to the party, and she's listening to a horrible sounding voicemail from her father. I think we've all been at one point or another in our life where, maybe things are not going great with a parent or something, and we get one of those voicemails, and they are
Yeah.
never fun to listen to.
Right.
But
But clearly you get the sense that she stood him up, right? Like that
mhm.
it's really on her.
Again,
And so we have yet another point of like, wow, you are just bad.
yes, yes. And there's this crowd of people she walks through while she's listening to her phone. And there's somebody in a hoodie with a baby mask that stops and turns around and stares at her. But she doesn't notice this person.
No.
at this point. And just to be, clear, I don't know why you'd be listening to this podcast if you have never seen this film before, but the college is the Bayfield, or is Bayfield University, and their mascot is the baby. They are the Bayfield Babies. It is the
Yep.
weirdest college mascot ever. I don't get it. It's only because they wanted a creepy baby mask for the killer, and sure.
I was thinking through that today. As many times as I've watched this movie, I've never really thought about why the babies. I also wonder if they just constantly thought through mascots that they just couldn't legally use. And so they
That's
landed on the
probably it.
babies and they're like, yeah, this is creepy enough. Let's go for it.
Yeah, I think Last Week Tonight would have, for a modest fee, let them use Jeff the Diseased Lung if they really wanted to. But,
yeah.
probably not the best one for a college. So she goes to this shortcut in this tunnel, probably under a highway or something like that. And she finds halfway through the tunnel this creepy music box. It is. It's such a weird horror film tropey type thing. I whatever. I don't know how somebody managed to time it that way.
Right.
But also, you see a completely empty tunnel in the middle of the night. You're walking alone on a college campus, and you see this in this tunnel. Do you walk in?
No.
No. But Tree, being, the massive alpha bitch that she is, decides, okay, let's walk on in, and ha ha ha, real funny guys, and all that. And let's see here. I think when she stoops down to pick it up, that's when she turns around and sees Babyface.
Yeah, she gets to the end of the tunnel and there he is. And actually, she walks through the tunnel and the guy with the baby mask is there. And she's like, okay, you can stop being a creep. And then she says, I'm calling the cops now. And so he leaves. So then she keeps walking. And then the music box actually pops up behind her, which gets her to turn around. And then when she turns back, there's our killer ready to attack.
Yeah, it's I have no idea how Babyface manages to get back into the tunnel,
any of that,
start it up again, but it's all, it works. It works.
Yeah.
And yes, of course, Babyface strikes and kills Tree, and she wakes up again in the same dorm room with the same ringtone playing. And Carter, oh, hey, you're up. I wasn't sure if you wanted to oversleep or whatever, blah, blah, blah.
All the details start flooding into her and she's getting more and more confused.
Yes. She's a little weirded out, but still not quite understanding what's happening. But
right.
Again, still a massive headache from the hangover and probably from being killed the evening prior. And
right.
She asks for Tylenol again, and this time she knows where it is and directs Carter to go and pick it up.
Right.
And we get the line, it's like you've been here before, which will come back again.
Yes.
And then she steps outside after the once again horrible line from Ryan about Carter hitting that. And we get the leering guy with the sunglasses, the global warming girl, all that again and again. And she's just slightly weirded out by it all. Still not quite freaked, but she's getting there. So everything repeats. We get shorter instances of it. And then we're at that house meeting on the quad, and she's kind of dozing her way through it again. And Tree, what's wrong? Oh, yeah, just didn't sleep well. No, what's wrong with this? And poor shaming of Becky.
Poor Becky. Being mean to Becky again.
And she finally, it clicks that she's experienced all of this before, and she tries to warn Becky as she runs off, but we again get chocolate milk explosion, and ultimately Carter is there again, and things are not going well for Tree.
Right. And this is interesting because she does start putting pieces together because he gets ready to leave, and she says, "Wait, my bracelet." So she even knows his purpose of being there, which I thought is like a fun little okay, things are really starting to click. Like she is realizing this is no longer a weird dream, deja vu. Like I am actually living in the same moments and I can actually call these things out and they're still happening.
Yes, yes. So she goes to the hospital and, she's trying to explain this to the professor, but, he just wants sexy times, even though it's very inconvenient that she's there. This time he locks the door and the wife knocks on the door and she books it and heads back to the
She
sorority
locks the door,
house.
actually. That's another one of those, like, she knows what's going to happen. Because after she comes in, he goes, "Thank God you locked the door."
Right.
So she's like putting all these little pieces together. And it's funny
Mhm.
how it's like almost coming out of habit. That's because that's how real it's feeling to her. She's remembering to lock the door. She's remembering to ask for the bracelet. She's remembering to warn Becky. So it's kind of cool to watch her start clicking with the world that she's now living in.
Right, right. It's yes, this is Sifu and she's finally remembering where everybody
Yeah,
will pop up and she is leveling herself up.
right,
Um
exactly.
so she goes home to the sorority house. She's, sitting on her bed watching a video of her and her mom on their birthday and uh Danielle steps in, does her bitchy thing and does a horrible mocking thing of a deaf person and it's just gross. And
So bad. That's
yeah,
when you're like, they definitely wrote her to be the worst kind of human being.
yes, yes. It's when they throw things like that into a film and it's like, you didn't necessarily have to go there, but at least it was in service of just showing you how truly horrible
How
somebody
terrible she
was.
is. I agree. I always find that line very fine to walk. Like, we get how terrible she is. We didn't
Yeah,
necessarily need that extra step. Like, I'm bought in that she's awful.
yeah. I
And
mean,
it's one of the few moments that I kind of like roll my eyes and sigh at. Like, oh, I don't know
yeah,
if we needed to go that far.
yeah. Again, if you're making this film, 5 years later and you thought about doing this, you might think otherwise. It's like, let's go
Yeah.
back to 2004 and remove that line that uh, Sean's housemate Ed says when he hops out of the car after speeding up to pick everybody up. We don't need that anymore either.
Yeah, we can cut that.
Yes, exactly. We get how awful Ed is. We don't need the
Yes,
racism as well. Um,
exactly.
so yes, she decides to go off to the party tree, and she's gonna take a different route this time because she has a pretty good idea of what's coming. But she walks up to the door and slugs bitchy Danielle's boyfriend or wannabe boyfriend, and surprise, it's a surprise party for your birthday.
Ready for her. Yep.
Yeah. Don't mess with a Kappa bitch or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, so Danielle and Tree are hanging out and just kind of shooting the shit a little bit, ogling some of the guys. There's Tim, the stalkerish dude, standing off in the corner and still, being a little bit of a red herring here as far as,
Yeah.
could he be the killer? They've, used the professor as a potential killer as well, just from the way he's interacting with Tree. And then, of course, is it Nick? Is Nick the kid from the
Yeah.
frat house? Okay. So he pops up, talks to them, and yeah, Danielle's all over him, but he only has eyes for Tree, and they have their little interaction, and then he walks away, and and Tree says to Danielle, "What?" And Danielle's like, "Don't what me. You know exactly what you're doing with him."
Right.
You know, little does she know that the evening prior, she was ramming her tongue down Nick's throat at the bar, and this was all
And Danielle
before.
saw all of that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So then shenanigans in Nick's room, and he turns on, his pleasure dome sound system, and Tree's not exactly impressed, so she gets distracted by her text exchange with Danielle. There's a
Which
bit
Danielle's
of
just straight up calling her out.
yep, yep, and yeah, the Tree, is able to give what she gets. But behind her shoulder, we've got Babyface stabbing the shit out of Nick and taking his place because, again, Nick was wearing the stupid baby mascot mask. And so we get that fun little misdirection there, and Tree turns around, and Babyface is just standing there, and then finally looks down, sees Nick's dead, and they tussle. And as this is happening, we have the
Rat
door
Bro walks
open with
in
this
and
drunk
thinks
dude.
they're
Yeah. And so, okay, now we get this wonderful cover up of sexual assault because that's what this guy thinks is happening and just walks out of the room screaming. These are such horrible people.
All of them.
I don't even care that Nick's dead because
No,
it won't matter
not at all.
anyways, but I really don't care that Nick's dead. And then we get Death by Bong, which, you know, sure, great. So now we're up to day 3. Yeah. And
Now she's in like full panic mode.
oh yeah, she's absolutely freaking out at this point. And we have her racing through all the little events that we've seen before, and makes it home to the sorority house. And Lori shows some amount of concern, but then largely blows it off as just Tree being Tree, right?
Yeah.
So this is the time that she decides, okay, fuck it. Just going to barricade myself in my room and watch Teen Mom.
Yeah.
And yeah. So this is one of those horror tropes of people not having any physical way to enter a space, but somehow being able to. Because of course, Babyface has been hiding in this room this whole time if she barricaded herself in there.
Right.
But in some ways, it is one of my favorite tropes because I like it when people just pop out of the woodwork in a space where they have no physical way of entering. But so, yes, she can't find the remote. She's looking around. And this is, I think, where she finds the birthday card that has the spinning baby head inside and something about not having a tomorrow or something like that. So that's creepy, and she hears a noise. So she picks up the hammer she was using to save her or barricade herself in and checks the closet. Nobody there. And then we get the fun trope of the shower curtain, which I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, movies like this have made me hate closed shower curtains and small bathroom mirrors. Those two things have made bathrooms so terrifying.
That works.
Yeah.
And the thing about the shower curtain trope is at this point in, the 50s, 60 years since Psycho, we're at the point where when somebody thinks somebody is hiding behind a shower curtain, they try to subvert the expectation, and there is never anybody there, right? And there is never anybody behind the shower curtain, except Babyface is hiding behind the shower curtain with the TV remote, because as Tree is just about to check, the TV flips back on and she turns back. Well, that was the only place where Babyface could have been hiding, because as she steps towards the TV, that's when they stalk up behind her and they tussle and she dies again.
Yep.
All right. Day 4. Tree is really spiraling at this point, absolutely losing her mind, and in the middle of near the coffee cart and the frat boys, she's about to pass out from being freaked out, and Carter grabs her and kind of saves the day. And what does he save her day with? A coffee beanery. Aaron, when is the last time that you have been to a coffee beanery?
Literally never, actually.
Yeah, I didn't know that they still existed until I saw this movie 5 years ago. It was definitely a staple of the 90s. I remember at the mall, being able to grab like an iced coffee or something, and it was just the coolest thing ever because Starbucks wasn't really a thing throughout the rest of the country at that point. But okay. So Tree kind of lays it all out, and Carter's, just listening, and finally comes up with the idea, okay, well, who would want to kill you? Let's get a suspect list together.
And that list is way too long.
Oh, yes. It's basically everybody on campus. The Uber driver she spat on.
That she spit on, Yeah.
Yeah.
The short girl at TJ Maxx that she got fired is one that she says. Like, it doesn't become a suspect list so much as a confessional at this point of how awful Tree has been.
Yes, yes. But this is where Carter basically gives her the idea, okay, well, if you're going to come back every time you die, why don't you just keep dying until you figure out who it is and then you can stop it?
Great idea at first.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, as far as we're concerned, sure, solid plan. She's not so jazzed, and ultimately, she does have good reason for that. But
Yeah.
then we get a montage, and
With complicated. It's so good. It's my
yes,
favorite point of the film.
yeah, I am not a Demi Lovato fan, but ultimately the song works, and it works really well
Yes.
for the montage. It's great. And
It's
okay,
such a
I'm sorry.
buck wild montage to watch
Oh
her
yeah,
die over and over, to see how she's like kind of gained this confidence in what she's doing. We
hmm
have the famous, she just decides to walk home naked for no reason at one point because she knows no one will remember it.
yep,
Like,
yep.
yeah,
And I gotta
I
ask,
love this montage.
yeah, it's great. The kills are cool. So does every college campus have an army surplus? I gotta ask.
Right? The night
I
fishing goggles.
yes,
She gets the
because
face
I can't
paint.
see her getting easy access to night vision goggles day of unless they do.
Yeah.
But I definitely remember that from my undergrad experience. Yes, there was always an army surplus, easily accessible. So she discovers why Tim is as weird as Tim is. Um, it's just he doesn't like girls. That's
Yeah.
it. Okay,
Yep.
and then
And
she
I love
gets.
her like realization of it and how like accepting she immediately is. She's like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, that's
Yep, yep.
nice,"
This all
and
starts
then
clicking,
dies.
right? Yep, absolutely. So then we also start to notice during the montage that she has symptoms of her death the prior evening when she
Right.
wakes up because she's drowned and then she wakes up and spits out all this water and she has specific pains from the kill the night before and then the montage ends with this wonderful wonderful transition of Tree getting clocked in the side of the head with a baseball bat and then falling into bed after
After she
she
clocks
clocks
Becky.
Becky.
Poor Becky.
Or Becky.
Becky cannot catch a break in this movie.
Nope, nope. I mean, eventually, she gets a good little scene, but that's quite a ways off at this point.
Yeah.
But yes, um, so Tree gets slugged in the head and wakes up probably with a concussion because as she gets up and does her whole thing. When Ryan gets to the door this time to be disgusting again, this is where she passes out.
Yeah.
And wakes up in the hospital with this cool little fake out of the fuzzy body walking towards her, and she thinks it's Babyface, but no, it's just Carter checking in on her.
Yep.
And well, seems her injuries have been catching up with her.
And this is where
It,
we get another little brief red herring of Gregory, because he ushers Carter out in kind of a creepy way.
yeah, this.
You muted yourself, sir.
Yes, I did. Yeah, his visiting hours are over line just seems like really forced and a
Yeah,
little
and
sinister.
really creepy.
Yeah. But ultimately, yeah, we lose Carter and Gregory, talks with her and she starts to get a little freaked out by him to the point where she tries to be sly and it's like, I'm very thirsty. I could use a soda. And we can tell she's not from the Midwest because she didn't call it pop. But
Right.
but ultimately, yeah, he goes to buy her a soda and
She gets the hell out.
oh yeah, she runs to his office, finds his car keys, and a baby mask stashed underneath them. So she's getting more and more freaked out until she runs into him in the hall, and he tries to, console her and everything, and that's when we get Babyface stepping out and stabbing him from behind. So
Yep. So
okay,
his red herring can be nixed.
yes, we can check Gregory off the list. This chase scene through the parking garage.
Yeah.
I enjoy the hell out of it.
Oh, I know. This movie does a really good job of actually balancing that like I would say it leans more heavily into comedy, but when this movie gets tense, like it gets very, very tense. Like this is a very scary slasher film chase scene, and it's very, very like well done. Her
Mhm.
like sneaking through the cars, and the trope of like right as she's about to escape, he breaks the glass, but then she's able to just kind of like step on it. Like it's really well done.
Mhm. Yep, it's very well directed. It's super competent for a comedy that's throwing in an action scene. It works very much so.
Yeah.
So she's on the road and she's like, "Yeah, that's right, I beat you, bitch." And that's when the cops show up behind her. Um, so
Love this
yeah,
scene too.
it's a state cop, and you can tell because he's got a patch with Louisiana on his shoulder. And shout out to Louisiana, because when you Google Louisiana IUD comes up in the top 5 suggested searches. So yeah, we all know what's been going on lately, and that's just depressing as hell.
Yeah. Louisiana is not a place I want to be right now.
No, I barely want to be in Michigan most times, but at least we're doing mostly okay where that stuff is concerned. But
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, so we have the cop, and I love that he's just like, have you been drinking or any other illegal substances? And the like spark in her eyes when she's like, wait, if I am, you'll have to arrest me.
That's
And I
usually
like the
how this
idea of
works.
her like,
Yes.
yeah, that's usually how it works. And I love that she jumps all over the fact that like, oh, maybe this guy can protect me if I'm arrested, which is totally fine with me.
And then we get the awesome side swipe, and state trooper's gone, and
Yep.
it's Babyface. Well, this is after she's been thrown in the back of the police cruiser, all cuffed up. Oh, I've never been arrested before.
Yeah, she's like, here, let
She's
me
very
help you.
excited. She is up for being arrested.
Yeah.
But yeah, he gets sideswiped out of existence, and Babyface walks up. And this is where, in my note taking, I'm like, God, every time Babyface just stands there and stares or gives a little head tilt as he's staring, um, you get this awesome little music cue, and it's
I don't think I noticed
almost
that.
like a crying child type of sound, and it's spooky and absolutely perfect. uh I like it.
I'd have to go back and watch it again. I didn't actually catch on that.
Yeah, it's anytime that he's just kind of standing there,
Okay.
it's when they'll play it, and it's perfect. It's creepy as fuck. So then we get the lovely explosion, because as he's sideswiped the police cruiser, ruptured the gas tank, and
Right.
all that.
And then he lights it, which I had never, for some reason, I had never picked up on the fact that, like, to make the connection of who the killer actually is, that they drop a birthday candle to light it. I was like, how have I never caught that? Like, that is a huge hint of who
Mm-hmm.
actually who the killer is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is one of your biggest moments that you could go, ah, I got it. And I never
Yep.
have. I don't know. It's just this nice little subtle touch of the one single birthday candle and drops it to light the whole thing.
I actually noticed that for the first time as well during this rewatch. It's perfect.
Yeah.
And so she blows up and wakes up again, and I think I
Is this
lost
when she
count as
tells
far as what
Carter
day it
his
is.
plan sucks?
Yes, yes.
And she's like, I
And
hate your plan.
yep. And let's see here. And this is where we're roughly 2/3 of the way through the film, but
Yeah.
this is where Tree decides to finally address the roommate Ryan with his fine vagina line. And
Yes.
yeah, she finally calls him out on it. And yeah. And
Lets him
also,
know
this is,
not so subtly that he will be single forever if he continues to talk to women that
yes,
way. Or talk
exactly.
about women that way.
Yeah, yeah, it's not great. This is also roughly 2/3 of the way through the film, where they're finally showing Tree walking Carter through the events of the morning to convince him
Yes.
of the time loop, something that she's probably done multiple times at this point, but they
Right.
haven't really, eh, there really wasn't a need for the plot or just the pacing for them to get into it. But she's walking him through, okay, sprinklers, car alarm,
Car alarm.
frat boy.
Yeah.
And yeah, so they go to the diner, and We get a super long, disgusting fart from Tree,
Uh-huh.
and then a very heartful conversation about dads and moms.
I really appreciate that she's just like, you won't remember. I don't care.
Yes.
Like she's kind of accepted that she's stuck in this reality at the moment. Like it is gross. And he's like, oh, wow. And she's like, you won't remember. It doesn't really
Yeah.
matter at all.
Yeah. Everything is pointless. Nothing matters. I just
Yes.
want to eat my burger and my fries and be gross. Let me be
Yeah.
gross.
Yeah. I am living a living nightmare right now. I'm going to do
Yep.
whatever the hell I want.
Yep.
And yeah, the very heartfelt conversation about moms and dads, and also about the fact that she's not good, but he's like, that's fine. It's not too late to start being good,
Yeah. Yeah.
which I really appreciate that.
And this does click for her very, very soon because, well, before any of that happens, actually, we get the TV over the counter at the diners with its
About
news broadcast about
Toombs.
John Toombs. You can't get any more on the nose with a serial killer's name than naming him Toombs.
Toombs. Yep.
Yes.
It's a
What?
very, very killer name.
Actually, one of my favorite X-Files Freak of the Week monsters, Eugene Toombs, the guy who could stretch his way through the vents.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah. Who was in 2 episodes, which is so weird because it was just like a Freak of the Week thing. But in any event, she runs off to the hospital to go confront the serial killer, and she tells the lady at the reception desk, "Yeah, you got to call the cops. He's gonna kill everyone." It's
Right. He is escaping. She now knows how this works.
yeah. So she elbows the fire axe, gets that, and realizes that cop is probably quite dead from the blood splatter on the glass of the door to the hospital room.
Yep.
And she walks in there, and I think Babyface is like behind the door or something.
Yeah, and he shoots the axe out of her hand.
I know.
Incredible shot.
Great fucking shot. Yes. Yeah, that's great. She runs, he fires after her. And oh yes,
She's at the elevator trying to escape,
yeah.
and that's when Carter saves the day. He had figured out where
Yes.
she was headed.
Yep. Only to get his neck stabbed for his troubles.
Yes.
So she runs off to kind of like this desolate, like closed off area of the hospital because, of course, it's a horror film and you have to have the slightly abandoned
weird
portion of the
Yes.
hospital.
Exactly.
She squeezes her way through a chained up door and manages to find a crowbar that she promptly clocks Toombs with, and she's got the upper hand. This is her moment, right? And realizes, oh shit, if I
win, Carter's actually dead. And she has started to have those very, very strong feelings for him. I love the realization. I don't know. I think I understood it without the line. I don't always love when it feels like they look right at you, the audience, to like tell you what's going on. But she does literally say out loud, if I kill you, Carter will be dead.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, I got it. I understood why you were doing this. It's also worth noting right before that, though, she does have the gun right before Carter dies, and she tries to shoot him after he snaps his neck.
But
and
the safety catches on.
Yep, because we're going to come back to that as well. So
yes.
Lots of little things that she like learns lessons. It's like you said at the beginning of the episode, like she kind of has to level up as she goes through this over and over and over.
And not so much in the understanding what's going to happen, but she is growing as a person, and she is, gaining some emotional IQ points here and realizing that, hey, she likes Carter. He's a good person. He does not deserve to die. I got to do something about this. So she climbs the bell tower and grabs a rope and hangs herself after telling him, oh God, what's the line? I did write it down here. It's here somewhere. Oh, yes. See you again, asshole. And it's such a perfect tropey action film style line, and it's great. And she wakes up again with this lovely...
she's going to come back, and she's like, nope, I know who you are now. This is it. And like, that call out is actually really kind of badass.
Yeah.
See you again, asshole.
Yep. And then she wakes up with this lovely crack of her neck from hanging herself. And she sees the Carters there, and she runs over and she just hugs the shit out of him. She is so happy that he is alive.
Yeah.
It's
now,
sweet.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
And this came up as we were watching it today. She is experiencing damage through all of these. Like her body is creating scar tissue and all these things, and that's why
Mhm.
how she ends up in the hospital. Now, does Carter have residual damage from getting his neck broken? Or
That's a
anybody else who died who would be reset the
really
next day?
good question. Maybe it's just her because everything seems to be centered around her.
That was my answer too.
Yeah.
I said, I think because she's the only one who can carry memories and carry all these other things.
Yeah.
My guess is no, they wouldn't carry over any residual damage.
Yep.
It's just
Nope.
fun to think about the rules of the world.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think that is, without hand wavy movie logic, I think that is very much a sufficient answer to this.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes
So,
sense. And
anyways,
we'll get into
just something
another question that I have for you about several of the scenes, but there's probably a pretty easy answer to that. But we'll get there in a minute.
Okay.
So yes, she hugs him. She lets him know, she's so happy to see him and that he saved her. And you know, she's ecstatic. And this is the moment. This is the time where she decides this is the fucking day. And she goes out to be a good person after spanking the
Yes.
shit out of Ryan for his
She's just
horrible comments. So she walks outside and she snatches those Ray-Bans off of that creepy guy. And I got to stop it right here and say, okay, I know the Ray-Bans are not the most expensive sunglasses in the world, but they are
that dude just
significantly more.
accepts it.
Yes, they are significantly more costly than, the bulk of the 20th century when they were around. And
Yeah.
I have a nearly identical pair, actually, by coincidence, of Clubmasters polarized. And if somebody snatched $200 sunglasses off of my face, I don't think I would just be accepting of that fact.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I'm going
I
to be
don't
like,
know if I
what the
really
fuck?
ever let that scene click for me until this watch through for whatever reason. But yeah, I was like, so you're just good.
They weren't cheap.
Yeah. You're like, I guess those are her glasses now. I'm gonna move on with my day. I was just
Yeah.
like, what?
Yes, and I know he had like this whole aesthetic going on. I don't know what he really was supposed to be, but man,
Yeah.
that pissed me off about those Clubmasters.
Right.
So yes, she does that. She signs the petition to stop global warming, save that planet, girl, and she slides the pillow underneath the frat boy's head just before it hits the ground. Oh, she also
And
warns
gives
the
him a
people
nice
about the
little
sprinklers.
kiss.
Yes, this chaste little kiss. And then she finds Tim over by the walkway and she's like, Tim, I get it. Go live your life, girl. And
Yeah.
and Tim has this realization.
Yeah.
It's
she's
wonderful.
Like, love is love. Like,
Yes.
it's okay. Be who you are. And yeah, you can literally see the weight kind of lift off of him. Like, oh,
Yes,
somebody knows about
yes.
me. That's great.
Yeah. And then she's finally nice to the girl that's sitting on the front steps of the sorority house for once. And it's so sweet because she seems like the kindest little perfect little thing. And
I
she
know.
just gets shit on over and over throughout this film.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
The first time I saw this, like, almost got me a little teary-eyed with how wonderful of a person she is, and she hits all these like really big beats, and you are like pulling for Tree so hard at this point. You just want to see her win. And this also is probably like right there with the montage in terms of just favorite moments. Absolutely adore all of it.
Yep, it's very uplifting. And it's a lot of it's just because this is payoff. We are getting such good payoff for what has happened through probably the last hour 15, hour and 20 of this film. But she enters the frat house, you sneaky little biatch. Oh, hey, his name is Carter. We haven't had sex yet, but if I live through this day, I am going to have his babies.
Yes. She's just fully acceptant that she's in love with the geeky kid. Like she's
who barely knows her, by the way.
Who's what?
Who barely knows her, by the way.
Right. I also called that out in this viewing. I was like, how does he feel? Like she's fully committed and in love with this boy who he still only thinks he met last night.
Right.
I think it's emotionally messy, but then he's like, well, you're super gorgeous and way out of my league, so I am gonna go with it.
Yeah, we're just gonna roll the dice and see how this plays out. So she makes it up to her room, apologizes to Lori after the great callback of she finally rolls in,
Yes.
and apologizes to her for just being such a bad roommate. And
Yeah, it's
uh,
beautiful. Yeah.
it's good. And
Lori
we see-
doesn't know how to take it. She still tries to give her the cupcake.
Yes. And from Lori's perspective, I do understand. Okay, she seems to be making this massive change, but compared with how she was last night, nah, Tree's still an awful person. I gotta kill this bitch.
Well, yeah, and Lori's already clearly snapped enough to murder this person.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
like, one heartfelt apology doesn't bring you back from that edge.
Yeah, probably not. So let's see. From here, she moseys off to the
Is it the sorority meeting and then lunch with dad?
She actually, this is weird because she actually breaks up with the professor before the sorority
right.
meeting.
Okay.
Oh, that's right, because it was the class. The class happens before the meeting, before the hospital.
So we are following the correct series of events here.
Yes, because she calls him out in the classroom, and then he steps outside, and she breaks up with him, and blah, blah, blah.
And then we get the glorious, I'm not going to let you coast by anymore. She goes, already dropped it, bitch, and throws up the middle finger. I love the walk away bird. It was great.
yeah, that definitely works. And then we get the house meeting where neither Tree nor Becky are there. And, Danielle's very upset that some people just couldn't be bothered to show up to this house meeting that's been on the calendar for weeks. And Becky comes in and she gives her shit about her lunch tray. And then Tree shows up with fucking French fries and those
chili
awesome
dogs,
Zapp's kettle
ding
chips.
dongs. Like she is, she is in.
She's speaking my language here.
Yeah.
and she's basically, hey, what's a few calories? It's not going to kill you. And she gets called out a little bit for that. And then Becky's about to, run off and have a good cry because, she gets called a chonker. And Tree's like, no, dear. You just sit down.
You sit down. Yeah.
You can take this
chocolate milk.
Yes. And it's like
just
the grossest
so casually
looking
just
chocolate
dumps
milk,
it
too.
on her.
Yeah, because it's very watery in its consistency. But she gets the best of Danielle, and everybody's kind of seems to love her for it,
Yeah. Only one girl gets up from that table to follow Danielle to make sure she's okay. Everybody else is like,
yes, I noticed that. There was just one. That's a ride or die.
Yep.
But and then she turns around and there's Carter to deliver the bracelet, and she sucks face with him in front of all of her sisters there, and things are good, Hey, take me out for my birthday later. And okay, sure. I just mentioned last night, but whatever. This seems cool.
I'm in. All right.
Yeah. So we finally get lunch with Dad, who's about to take off because he's been waiting for a while at this point.
Right. Days, technically.
Yeah, I suppose so. And we get all the feelings here in this scene too. It's she apologizes for being such a bitch to her father, and they kind of have it out there in a good way, and it's cool. It's all the feels for sure.
The beautiful scene, and to introduce the dad just for this scene, like they had good enough chemistry that you absolutely believe in their relationship and what this looks like. And I don't know, they sell it really, really well. Kudos to the guy who plays the dad. I can't remember his name, but
neither can I. I get him confused with the guy from Person of Interest, who is the cop that they all knew.
Oh yeah,
who I think is a much older actor, but they have a very similar look. So now it's time to gear up for the showdown with Toombs, and she's strapping on a knife and tying back her hair and throwing on a leather jacket and all that shit. She's ready to go. And we also find out shortly hereafter that this is day 16 at this point.
Yep.
So she steals the cop's gun by knife point, who's waiting outside Toombs' door, which I don't know if that's the best choice, but
hijacking a cop doesn't seem like the play, but here we are.
Yeah. So she chases him off, telling him to go get help. And she goes into the room. She's like, I know you're not asleep. And he gets up, and the safety's on still.
Yep.
And
Still hadn't
shit.
learned that lesson. But now, I don't think she's ever understood why it doesn't work. And now Toombs kind of writes his own check by saying the safety's on, little girl. So now she knows why the gun never works for her.
Yeah. And so they tussle. And I
Toombs
neglected in the.
freakishly strong, by the way. He
Oh, yeah.
kicks through a steel chain door with a padlock on it and chucks this girl like a pro wrestler across the room.
And we get the little payoff of her setting a timer for half an hour on her watch because it coincides with the blackout. And this is where she gets the drop on him, picking the gun up again, and fires
That
3
scene gives
rounds
me
into him.
chills when the
Yeah.
watch beeps and it goes dark and then she's just not there. I was like, God, that's good. That is
It's
good
slick.
writing. You guys earned all the blackouts that we see. This is something that hasn't played like too much significance throughout, but it does. It's obviously
Right.
just another constant to point to. And to
Absolutely.
utilize it in this way, I was like, chef's kiss. That was so
Yep.
good.
I think if this were just a straight slasher film, that would be like, yeah, okay, this is a hand wavy way for her to get the advantage. But in a film like this, with all the little callbacks and the Groundhog Day approach and everything, totally works. So yeah, agreed.
And
Chef's
especially
kiss.
because I think the payoff is so much better because of the watch, like that she did set it up as a timer. It's not like it happened and she just took advantage of it. Like she knew exactly when it was coming if she needed it, and she did. And so, yeah, the trope happens a lot, but I thought this played really well into their story.
Yep. And then, okay, so were there only 3 rounds in the magazine with this gun? Because
4.
Well, because you see, she unloads on this guy.
Yep. And then it pops.
Yeah, exactly. So
I thought the same thing. I was like, you had 4 bullets in that 9mm.
I guess the department's cutting back. Budget cuts. You better make every shot count, buddy.
Every one of them.
Yes. Okay. So, and then the other thing here, because we quickly switched to her lighting the cupcake with Carter in her room at the sorority house. And it's like, did you just like run away from the hospital then? Because if the cops came back and you stayed,
that's exactly what I assumed. I was like, as soon as she hears those sirens, she had to have just booked it, because it's not like the cop knew who she was. But you obviously, whether or not you killed the serial killer, you can't hijack a cop and take his gun.
Yes.
They're going to have so many questions.
Yeah, you would have spent at least the next 24 to 48 hours at the cop shop for sure.
Yes.
So, yes, they get the fun little back and forth between her and Carter, and she blows out the candle on the cupcake and wakes back up at day 17.
And it's your birthday. Yep.
Oh, hey, you're awake. And oh, she is so upset.
Yeah. She's so mad. Carter does not understand.
Wait, you killed somebody? What? Huh?
Yeah. And that's when she just like, we don't really do anything else. She storms straight to the sorority house, right?
Right. And Carter, the line that he's said to Ryan every single morning for the past 16 days, nice one, dickhead. He says to himself this time.
Because she's gone so fast that he didn't even get there. I thought that was a neat little callback of him just saying it to himself because the day has to repeat. Yeah, I noticed that too.
Yep. So she makes it back to the sorority house and she's okay. I gotta go. I'm leaving town. It's the only way. So she starts packing a suitcase, and Laurie, the roommate, is just super insistent with this cupcake again.
Yep.
And it finally clicks for Tree. The only thing that was really, truly different was that I finally ate the cupcake and I died in my sleep.
Yep.
Fuck.
And then this is a perfect call out. She like starts calling her out. She's like, "You're really crazy." She's like, "Okay, cool. Eat it. Have a little bite." And then when she doesn't, and she doesn't know how to get out of it, I like that Tree's like, "Cool. Let's take this cupcake down to the police station. Maybe they can tell us what's in it." And
Mhm.
that's when obviously Lori finally breaks face and we
Yep.
find out that she's actually the killer. Hence the birthday candle, which is so good.
Mhm. And you
Yeah.
finally start to realize, oh no, it wasn't Toombs all
No.
these different times. It was always Laurie, with the exception of when she goes to confront Toombs, because
Yep.
it was only her releasing him as a way of covering things up. Oh, there's a serial killer who has claimed to have many, many bodies hidden that were never discovered of people that were never attributed to him. This would be the perfect cover up for me killing my roommate.
Yep. So she has been the baby face the whole time doing all the killings, and it's really well done. I think the generic black hoodie is a perfect way to like make you think it's a man the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Um yeah, it's a fantastic reveal all through.
Mm-hmm.
Um like I don't know, we've killed off all the red herrings, including Tombs now. And so it's awesome. And then they get into this fight and we get another action hero line from Tree. Eat it, bitch. And she shoves the cupcake into her mouth.
Yup. And then she looks up at the light fixture, and we get the most securely fixed light fixture in the world that does not rip out of the ceiling
Nope.
as she uses it as a pivot to kick Lori out the window.
Who falls right in front of the poor Korean girl.
Yeah, it's really sad because she's so nice. You just want to give her a hug.
I know. Oh, and
And
then
the blood
I
splatter
like that. I was like,
everywhere.
there's got to be ways that they need to prove this. And while it is a little unbelievable that she's at a diner already with Carter,
Yeah.
instead of answering a whole lot of questions for the cops, we just get that kind of wrapped up that, yep, they've obviously proven that she was the killer. It's on the news, all that kind of stuff. So,
And then we get that, hey, so now that your room's a crime scene, you want to sleep over again? And, it's kind of cute. And then he brings up Groundhog Day. What's Groundhog Day? With Bill Murray. Who's Bill Murray? And,
the Ghostbusters. And she's like, no. He's like, what? Yeah. I
yeah.
like that they call it out. You have to, right? You're
Mhm.
using this trope. Might as well just own it. And yeah,
Yeah, there
it's
was
great.
something else where there was some kind of like pop culture reference that Carter brings up earlier in the film where she just kind of goes with it, but you're thinking to yourself, yeah, she doesn't know what he's talking
She
about.
has no idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But then we get the fun little fake out of her waking up in the dorm room again, and he says the
It's your
exact same
birthday.
shit. And nope, it was a big fake out. He was just calling her phone just to mess with her. And they have their little fight that ends up in them rolling around on the bed, and Ryan shows up again. He's like, again, I just want cleared underwear. I don't want to spend another night in my car. It smells like hot
Yeah.
pockets and feet. If your car smells like hot pockets and feet, that's more of a you problem and
But
less
I was
of
thinking the same thing. I was like, it's time to clean your car, bud.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then we get credits with these awesome greeting card animations. That was a
Yeah.
lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's it.
My
That's Happy
girlfriend,
Death
she
Day,
was
man.
like, I would be livid. Like, it is too soon to play that prank.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's especially if you have in any way any understanding of what this girl has been through for, the better part of 3 weeks now,
Yeah.
ultimately, of reliving this over and over and over again. Yeah, that's kind of a dick move. Um,
Yeah.
that said,
But she's a
up
good
until this
sport.
point, she was kind of a raging bitch. So,
That's true.
it's fair. It's fair. It's I think
Yeah.
she can take it.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that's Happy Death Day.
It was so good. I love this movie. It's so much
Yeah.
fun. And
Oh,
the Groundhog Day trope is they play with it so well. I like how much fun they had with it. That montage with Complicated, some of the deaths
mhm.
are hysterical. Like
Oh,
her and
yeah.
Danielle fighting and rolling out into the street and getting hit by a bus. Like just it's all so good.
Yep, yep, love it. It's the same kind of fun that you get with Edge of Tomorrow, seeing Tom Cruise die over
Yes.
and over again.
Yeah. Yep. I like this trope, and I think it's probably
Mhm.
because it's not necessarily run into the ground. Like you only have a handful of these movies,
Oh yeah.
but it's a lot of fun when they play with that formula.
Mhm. And it's incredibly well done. I mean, shout out to Christopher Landon. Have you seen Freaky?
Mm-mm.
So that's one of his more recent films. It's a body swap horror comedy that has Vince Vaughn as a serial killer who is inhabited by the mind and soul of a teenage girl.
Okay, I'm into that.
It's a lot of fun.
That's next on the list then.
But yeah, I think he's got a real knack for directing horror comedies. I'm pretty sure he wrote that one as well. Yeah, shout out to Christopher Landon because he's also the writer of every single Paranormal Activity film, with the exception of the original.
I have never seen those movies. They terrify
Most
me.
of them are pretty bad, with the exception of the first one. The first one
I hear is just so freaking scary
as fuck. It was, for my generation, it was the Blair Witch Project. For millennials, it was Paranormal Activity, for sure.
Okay. I saw Blair Witch Project in theaters. I am that old, so.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. We are definitely that old.
Yep.
Hence the lack of hair and all the gray.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, he's an interesting cat. It's funny because his dad was such a wholesome actor. Little House on the Prairie and Bonanza and Highway to Heaven and all that. But I think he still inherited quite a bit of skill for this kind of thing from his father.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Any final thoughts on Happy Death Day?
Honestly, no. I think I got it all out. Just how much I love it. I just think it's such a fun time. Like, it's like the most enjoyable 90 minutes for a horror comedy that you can have. And speaking of which, thank you for making it an hour and a half. Like, it is such a crisp movie. Like, it just flows so well. And I think it's perfect for that hour and a half formula.
Yeah, it is certainly not the director's cut of Dr. Sleep, for sure.
No.
Which is awesome and flies by, but that is indeed 3 hours. And
right.
In some ways feels like a miniseries, but it's one film. But yeah, Happy Death Day, absolutely fun ride. It's one of those where every time you see it, you might pick up something else that you never noticed before. Case in point, our rewatches, we absolutely noticed some new stuff. And that's what makes it so fun. Aaron, I know you already mentioned, but just one more time for the people who made it this far, if you'd like, where can people find you?
I put most of my bullshit on Twitter at Aaron Seney, AARONSEANEY. It's just my name. Keep it simple. That's where I talk about most everything. It's also where I promote Give Me 20, the 20-minute comedy podcast, which you can find on all your favorite podcast services. And then that one is audio only. Speaking of Stadia, you can hit us up on Twitter at Speak of Stadia, and that is both audio and video. We do that over on YouTube.
Yeah, and be sure to check Aaron out in Simply Sassy's fairly recent Out of Our League episode. It's a fun watch. There are some interesting conversations there as well.
It was a good time. Oh, you can also check out my MCU Extended at Point in Progress. I just guested over there to talk about Moon Knight. Cool. That was a lot of fun.
Oh, nice. What'd you think of Moon Knight? No spoilers for the episode, but...
Yeah, baseline, I like it. I think it has issues. It's kind of weird episode to episode, but being only 6 episodes and none of them cracking an hour, it's the quickest binge. So, highly recommend.
Yeah.
That
it's
Multiverse
a lot of
Madness. Super good time.
Yeah. I will say the episodes that are directed by Benson and Moorhead give me such high hopes for their whole run of Loki season 2. So,
yes,
it should be some good times because they're just weird. They are so weird.
They're so good.
Yeah. But this has been Murders with Mertens, a horror film podcast. Thank you for letting us tickle your ear holes. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe and all that stuff. But I'll be back soon enough with another episode. Until next time, stay spooky, everyone.